What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the BASEHITBALL4 podcast. My name is Glenn Denigris alongside Scott Roswald, Alex Cashman, and Tyler Blumenstick. We're about a week away from pitchers and catchers reporting, and the biggest free agent name is finally off the board. Trevor Bauer decides to sign a 3-year contract with the Los Angeles Dodgers with opt-outs after each of the first 2 years, spurning the New York Mets, which for the last few weeks looked like the likely destination. A lot of things that went on. I mean, what else is new with Trevor Bauer? It's not normal when things don't go on when it comes to him. So he goes to the Dodgers. The whole kind of like couple hours before he made the decision was very controversial. His website had Mets merchandise linked up. That was obviously what he says is a mistake by his team. But at the end of the day, he does go to the Dodgers, and the Dodgers, after, I guess, being scared a little bit by what the Padres have done, bringing in Darvish and bringing in Snell and bringing in Musgrove, decided to put their foot down on that division. So a lot of people who may have been taking the Padres to win that division might need to take a step back and say, hey, the Dodgers are still the Dodgers. What are our thoughts on the Bauer signing, going to Los Angeles, going to a team that's already a powerhouse, already the defending champions, already a team that was going to win 100 games anyway? How much better could this possibly make the Dodgers that were going to be a powerhouse anyway?
A lot better. I was shocked, to be honest. I did not expect the Dodgers to come out on top. I thought he was just going to string the Mets fans along and then decide to go to the Mets. And he did not do that. Like, I feel like the apology was almost warranted, but I enjoyed watching it happen in real time. I thought it was hilarious. Just having a couple Mets friends and just seeing the Mets fans react on Twitter, I think was amazing. But it is a little messed up, I think, to get people's hopes up, but nothing to kind of hang your hat on for the long haul.
I mean, it was Bob Nightingale first.
Good old Bob
Nightingale first, the day before, said they had a deal and they didn't have a deal. And then the next day, the merch came out. And then 2 hours later, he's a Dodger.
Yeah, the merch is going a little too far. I know he said it was an accident. I don't know if it was actually an accident. I don't want to go around accusing because we're talking Trevor Bauer here. He is a wild card, loose cannon. Some for the good, some for the bad. I think mostly for the good, but I don't know. It's definitely towing a line you probably shouldn't, taking people's money for a team you're not going to play for.
Does this negate what the Padres did all offseason?
In a way, yeah.
Division-wise, yes. I think the Dodgers clearly are the front runner now at this point. And once you get into the postseason, anything can happen. And repeating as champions is so difficult. So it's going to be a challenge for the Dodgers once they get to the postseason, to get back to the World Series and to win it all again. But for me, like, ignoring the contract for Trevor Bauer, adding Trevor Bauer is huge. It makes the Dodgers so much better. That rotation is disgusting with Walker Buehler and Kershaw and Julio Urias and now Bauer. That top four is better.
And David Price is your 5.
Yeah, and David Price is your 5. He didn't pitch last year. He opted out, but he's still a good pitcher. And if he's your 5th option, you can't get any better than that. So that rotation is the best in baseball at this point. But for me, like, the contract is terrible. I don't think he's worth any of that money. But good for him and Rachel Luba, his agent, getting that done and getting him that money. You can't fault him for that, but I just don't think he's worth it.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of money for sure.
You guys all took the positive route here, and I'm going to take the negative route.
Surprise, surprise.
You often do.
Yes, this is a win for the Dodgers, but I truly believe that it's more of a loss for the Mets than anything else.
I would agree.
I mean, and I know I keep saying it, and I'm going to keep saying it until I'm proven wrong. Steve Cohen came into this offseason saying he's going to spend a lot of money and has done nothing. Yes, he got Lindor, but first of all, he hasn't been signed long term, so that means nothing. Second, you went and got a catcher named James McCann, who is serviceable. He's a good catcher, but he's not Real Muto, who you could have bought if you want to spend all the money. I mean, he would have very quickly gone to the Mets if they were going to offer him the money he wanted. And now you lose out on Bauer. You lose out on Springer. So the Mets is still the Mets. The Mets are still the Mets.
Yeah, that was actually one of my initial thoughts. Was like, I was giving the Mets the benefit of the doubt, like that they were going to be, relevant. But I'm pretty quickly back on the board with you, Cash. Of the Mets will be the Mets until the Mets prove that they're not the Mets. I think it's a huge loss for the Mets, for Cohen, for their fans. A couple of my friends, they didn't want to admit it, but they sounded very salty when I was talking to them about it. Big L for them. And another one of my initial thoughts was I'm happier that he didn't go to the Mets. Like, I don't care that he went to the Dodgers, like for NL East purposes, Phillies purposes. Like, I'm just glad Bauer is, where he is with the Dodgers. I don't have to deal with him. So, cause he's a good pitcher.
However, I will agree with you, Scott, that I think that contract's horrendous. And
Baseball Reference has him projected to go 11-10 with a 3.6 ERA. That's not a $40 million pitcher.
It's not the highest paid player in baseball.
He's had an ERA over 4 in 7 of his 9 big league seasons.
Hey, he's got a 3.9 career ERA. And
like, if he regresses back to his career average, that's nowhere close to a
He's not going to lose 10 games in a Dodgers uniform, but his ERA is going to be up there. But he'll still get the wins because they have a great lineup.
I mean, he was the beneficiary of being on the Reds last year and facing both Central divisions only, facing the Pirates and the Brewers and the Royals and the Cardinals and the Tigers. All those teams he faced, that was his entire schedule. So he never had to face the Dodgers. He never had to face the Padres. He never had to face the Braves.
I am very curious about what happens with his social media presence when and if he struggles.
It's not going to change, and I feel like that's most of the reason why that's there in the first place, is because it's that thing you can fall back on both if things aren't going
that's
great
not what I mean.
in the sport.
I must have worded that wrong. I don't mean his presence. I mean more so of how he acts. What's he going to say if he starts the season 0-3 with a 9 ERA? He can't go out there and start talking shit.
I don't think he does that in the first place, though. He's not one to talk and deflect his own issues. I think what he does, and more of what he does, is he goes and he breaks his film down and he goes into the analytics portion of it, and it goes up on his YouTube channel. I feel like he has the tendency to say things that the typical person in his position don't say, but
Tyler, he was
overall,
telling hitters what was coming in spring training last year.
Yeah, that's savage. How could you not like that? That's amazing.
I'm not saying I dislike it, but that's him saying, all right, I'm going to strike you out regardless.
Yeah.
So my point is, what happens if he struggles? That's my point.
I don't know.
I don't think he changes. That's just his personality is very strong. He's in his ways, and I don't think he would change his approach whatsoever.
Do you think the Dodgers needed to do this? They won the World Series already. They've won the division the last 8 years. Is what the Padres did this offseason, was that really enough to scare, I guess, the Dodgers into paying $40 million a year to Trevor Bauer? He's going to be making more in this year than a lot of entire organizations' rosters make. Do you think that it was necessary for the Dodgers to do something like that, to blow past the luxury tax to get Trevor Bauer?
I don't think it was necessary. I just feel like, I don't know. It wasn't more of a scare for the Dodgers, what the Padres did, as more of a kind of just like an up yours from the Dodgers front office, just saying like, hey, we have the capability to do this and we're going to do it. So here you go. Now deal with it. And that's what they did. So
what the Padres did this offseason is very good, but the Dodgers are still the Dodgers. They have an unreal lineup and phenomenal pitching staff with or without Bauer. And I don't think it has anything to do with the Padres. I think it has more to do with the Dodgers just saying, hey, let's go steal a pitcher from the Mets.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like big brother flexing his muscles on, little brother saying, hey, I'm here. I can do whatever I want. If I want to go get the NL Cy Young Award winner from last year, I'm going to go do it because I can.
I want to go back to what Glenn said. What was the projection? 11-10 with a 3.6. I think that's what it was. I mean, let's throw the record aside. I feel like even if Trevor Bauer pitches to a 3.6, no, he's not worth the money, but that's good enough for what the Dodgers need him to do. But $45 million is what it costs to get him there.
3.6 from someone who makes $5 million.
I don't know about that.
So that's the thing. I sent you guys that graphic of two other pitchers where his numbers are very similar to and similar age with Jake Odorizzi and James Paxton. Since 2015, Bauer's ERA is a 3.96, Odorizzi's a 3.82, and James Paxton is a 3.6. So he's put up similar numbers to middle of the road pitchers, and he got the most money for a single year in all of baseball.
So I think go ahead, Cash.
No, I was just gonna say, well, hopefully this helps the league in general. Like now guys are gonna say, hey, I could throw a 3.6 ERA and get paid $45 million if I go out there and make a social media presence of myself.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what I was going to touch on.
I don't think his contract was based on his social media.
I beg to differ. I think
that's
it's the opposite.
so wrong. That's so wrong.
Yeah,
I think analytics had a huge part of it.
You think his YouTube channel gave him an extra $25 million per year in salary?
Not 25 million, but I think it definitely.
Well, that's what got him looked at. That's what got the bidding war. I mean, listen, the Dodgers had to, if they wanted Bauer, they had to say, okay, I'm going to go out and pay him more than what the Mets are going to pay him. And if the Mets were willing to pay him $40 million a year, then the Dodgers said, all right, I guess I got to go 45. And Paxton's still in the market, like Scott said. Jay Happ had thrown similar numbers like this in the last few years, and Yankee fans, including myself, have hated him. So I don't know. I just think that the Dodgers bought the name.
And Bauer probably brought a lot of analytics to the table, like presentation wise, saying like, this is what I project for myself over the next 2-3 years. This is what you're getting from me. I think that's part of his whole thing too, is he doesn't want to look at the past. He's trying to project forwards.
Yeah. I don't know. I always feel like I understand spending on what you think he's going to do, but in the 1 year with the Cy Young year last year, it came on 11 starts through 60 games. We talk a lot about how, players struggled and how they get a pass for a 60-game season. I think that same grade of salt needs to be provided with someone who had a career year where their numbers over the course of a normal 162 don't tell the same story. So I don't hate Trevor Bauer. I think he's a really good pitcher, but for $40 million per year, is he worth more than DeGrom? Is he worth more than Cole? No, I don't think he is, but I guess the going rate for the next guy is always going to be more. So the Dodgers went out and they did it.
If DeGrom was a free agent right now, he'd be getting $50 million a year.
Yeah, I think that was a mistake by DeGrom. He should have held out till free agency. He signed with that team-friendly extension with the Mets. Let's move our attention back towards the Mets because, I actually think that they're better off without Bauer. I feel like the guy they should have gotten was Springer. If they were going to go into the $40 million per year range with Trevor Bauer, why couldn't they go into the $25-30 million range for Springer and outbid the Blue Jays? I think it's either a case where Steve Cohen doesn't have the deep pockets that he claims to, or that free agents don't consider the Mets a real possibility and they just use this new ownership to drive up the price for the organization that they do want to go to.
It's the latter. I can confidently say it's the latter. Steve Cohen's got the money. He said it from his own mouth months ago.
He lost a lot of money on GameStop, man.
No, come on. Get out of here. He didn't lose money on GameStop. He bailed out the people that lost money on GameStop.
His company
lost money on GameStop. He's picking up a business at the low. From a business perspective, I don't know the nitty-gritty about it, but that's a good move on his part from what I can understand.
Nevertheless, it doesn't. I was just making a joke.
I'm just saying.
I do agree with you. I think it's the latter. I think the Mets got played a little bit. They got used. I agree with Glenn that the guy should have been Springer. Yes, he's a little bit older, but they have a huge hole in center field. Brandon Nimmo is the worst defensive center fielder in baseball, and he's like arguably one of the worst just defensive players in baseball.
And they signed Albert Almora, which is he's
so
not going to move the needle for you.
Albert Almora does nothing offensively. He is a nice glove, but he's nothing offensively. So
they're thinking they're going to platoon the two.
So that's a bad idea. Plus,
Steve Cohen came in here flexing his financial muscle to get a platoon in center field.
All right, so I'm gonna say my theory to defend Steve Cohen for a second, and it hurts me to do. But George Springer just left the Houston Astros, and he was part of the biggest scandal possibly in sports history. He's a cheating little shit, right? But that's neither here nor there. My point is that the Mets just lost their general manager without overseeing a game, their manager without overseeing a game, and it just came out that their former manager did unspeakable things while he was with, or before / during whatever his time with the Mets. Does George Springer really want to leave Houston and the turmoil that he went through with the garbage can scenarios to go to the Mets, where it seems that they're making headlines for the wrong reasons every day?
I don't. He may have taken that into account, but
Toronto's a little bit more of a lot more of a small market than New York. Not saying Toronto's a small market, but in comparison to New York, it is. And the Mets unfortunately cannot catch a break. I mean, they thought they turned the corner. They got a new owner. He's got deep pockets, right? And he comes in, they hire a general manager who then gets fired. And Mickey Callaway, it comes out that he was a piece of shit.
Naughty.
Yeah, being naughty. And they can't catch a break. And it sucks. Like, I can't imagine what goes through the mind of a Mets fan like right now, that something good finally happens and then it just all goes to shit.
I think the Mets need to save face here, because this has been, other than the Lindor trade, the Lindor trade's a big band-aid for what has been, in my opinion, an embarrassing offseason, because, Cohen comes in from Wilpon. He promises to spend money. Mets fans are thinking they're going to get Real Muto, they're going to get Springer, they're going to get Bauer. They end up getting Lindor, and Lindor is going to do well for the Mets in the 1 year that he's going to be there so far. But if for any save face that Cohen needs to do, he needs to lock up Lindor and lock up Conforto. He needs to sign some massive extensions by the time opening day goes around, because you can't have that cloud of if Lindor is going to stay or not when we get to the regular season.
Yeah, clock is ticking on the Lindor thing, because Lindor in his introductory press conference said, once spring training gets rolling, like once we're like a couple weeks in, like I'm not going to think about it. I'm not going to want to do it. So Cohen's got to get that done. He's definitely got to get Conforto done. Maybe you give Pete Alonso an extension as well. But he's got to get those things done. The one, going back to Springer real quick, Springer did, like he said, he wanted to be close to home. He's from Connecticut. Like the Mets,
they just whiffed on him.
Yeah, the Mets were essentially handed a guy saying, "I want to be here. Like, come get me." And he decided to leave the country and go play north of the border potentially.
I mean, that's rough. I mean, you're right. The Blue Jays don't even know where their regular season games are going to be. They might be in Buffalo again. They might be in Dundon, where their spring training is in Florida. I don't think they're going to be allowed in Toronto, at least for the first part of the season when it opens. So Springer decided to go with that situation over, I guess, the comfortability of Citi Field and New York and everything that goes along with that. The fact that Steve Cohen couldn't pony up and match or exceed Toronto's offer, that's not a good look for him in his first offseason as a Major League Baseball owner.
And he doubled down on it too. If you don't get Springer, at the very least, the guy you need to get, because the need is because of a glove. Your lineup's not the problem. You're not filling center field to get a bat. And they go and sign Albert Almora Jr. Why isn't Jackie Bradley the guy you're going after and paying and making sure that that is your center fielder solely because of what he can do with his glove?
Yeah.
Still available.
But Almora got signed before that. And now I'm seeing tweets on my timeline right now about how the Mets they're boasting their depth with Tomas Nido, Jose Martinez, Albert Almora, Luis Guillorme, and Jonathan Villar. Like, I don't know if you're a Mets fan, if you're going to be happy about that.
That
or
sounds
you
like
should be
fantasy
happy.
baseball 2014.
It's awful. It's terrible. It's a whiff. It's a big whiff. And
And
I'm angry now. I don't know how
they're
that
gonna have to
happened, but I'm
compete.
angry.
We talked a couple podcasts ago. We talked about how great this division is. I mean, the Nationals are beefing up. They won the World Series 2 years ago. The Phillies are getting better. They're addressing the bullpen. They brought back Real Muto. The Braves just brought back Osuna, and you know the Marlins. We'll see what happens with them, but they have not done enough to thrust themselves into a situation where you can see them winning the division. Because I don't. I think the Pacoda projections that I sent you guys this morning had them winning the division. I think
95 games.
I think that whole thing that I sent you was complete nonsense. I think a lot of those divisions were completely off. But
Well,
I
A
don't
month ago, you had the Mets winning the division
because
too.
I thought they'd do more. I thought they would have Springer. I thought they would get Bauer, but they haven't. They've completely whiffed. They fooled me. I thought they would actually spend. I trusted Steve Cohen at his word. I'll never do that again. They missed on everything. And that trade for Lindor was more on Cleveland being desperate to rid that contract before they lose him for nothing than the Mets actually doing something.
Do the Mets have a general manager right now?
I think Alderson's just
They
play
named
both sides.
They named their assistant the interim, but it's essentially Sandy Alderson running the show right now.
And even when Porter was there, it was still Alderson making the shots, calling the shots.
Well, I got to be honest with you. Glenn, I hate to say this. I agree with you. The Lindor trade, looking back at it, had nothing to do with the Mets. It had everything to do with the Indians. There's no way he signs long term. I'm going to say it. There's no shot. No shot.
I'd love it. That would be incredible.
No shot. Lindor's not going to sign a contract to lose.
Yeah,
they're not a bad team, though. Come on, we got to be fair here. I feel like
why?
Not a bad.
They're
team.
not a bad
They have one of the
team, but
best
they're not.
pitching rotations in baseball.
They're not a bad team, but they're not the National. They're not the. I'm sorry, the Braves. They're not the Braves. They're not the leader.
They're not a bad team. They have one of the best pitching rotations in baseball. Tyler, every year we say the same shit. Baseball says the same shit. They have one of the best rotations in baseball. They got the pitching to get it done, but they don't get it done ever.
Can we talk about something though?
I'd love. It's a podcast. I'd love to do that.
So the Pacoda standings. That's as of 2/7/2021. Ozuna signed after that, yeah?
Yeah, he signed yesterday at 2-8.
Yeah.
So the Braves have a 5.4% chance of winning on the 7th. I feel like if we refresh Pacoda sometime within the next few days, that NL East division is going to look very different when that date changes.
But that was still projected
game difference.
Still projected after Bauer signed. Like, why were the Mets given 95 games? Why? Like, how did it project?
I'm not saying it's perfect. It's definitely not
Like-
perfect.
Like,
It's definitely not perfect.
That was like the third best record in baseball. Were giving the Mets.
Yeah, behind the Dodgers and the Yanks.
Like, no, they're not there. And I gave them 2 weeks ago. I said they'd come in second place in the division. I don't think they're the second best team in
Ozuna
the
signed on the
division.
5th.
The 5th?
Yeah.
All right, so Pacoda needs to revisit everything.
All these are wrong. I have it right in front of me.
The NL Central is bad. It's very bad. Milwaukee leading the division?
They have the White Sox winning only 83 games. I think they're the clear-cut favorite in that division.
Well, they're doing exactly what they want you to do, and let's talk about it.
They have Houston winning 93. I don't see how that's possible without Verlander. Milwaukee, the Cubs are ahead of St. Louis. I don't agree with any of this.
Well, it's very possible that Houston wins 93 because they're cheating bastards.
But they're without Springer. They're without Verlander. They're
I just
without
had to throw it
Cole,
in
they're
there.
without.
they're a shell of themselves at this point. Altuve was an atrocity last year.
You know why? Because he didn't cheat. Shithead.
Possibly.
They have the Phillies at 83. I think the Phillies are better than 83.
I put the Phillies right there at that point. I've got
Well, you're
my
just a
expectations.
beaten down Phillies fan.
I am. So
Well, you got to remember, we're singing praises for the Braves and the Nationals, and the Phillies are going to play them 19 times. 83 could be a lot.
yeah, I'm not completely sold on the Nationals just because their lineup outside of Soto and Turner, I don't like. No one really blows me away in that lineup outside of
Schwarber
those
doesn't
two.
do it for you.
Not really. He's an average player at this point. He never really got better. Josh Bell he had a good 2019. He was terrible last year, so we'll see. I don't know. I think the Phillies and Nationals are kind of at the same level. I don't think one is that much better than the other.
Do you think the Mets are 12 games better than those teams, though?
No, absolutely not.
No.
Can someone tell me who's closing the games for the Mets?
Edwin.
It would be Edwin Diaz.
Okay.
They brought in what? Who they bring in? They brought in Trevor May. They brought in Aaron Loop. Those guys aren't, they're not saving that bullpen.
Well, Loop's going to be your lefty specialist, and Trevor May had, I think it was an injury, kept him out like 2 years when he was with the Twins, and I feel like now he pitched 1 year with the Twins and his contract ran up, but when he came back from that injury, he was a good bullpen piece for that Twins team. So
Trevor
I-
Rosenthal's
solid.
still in there.
I think he's
still out there.
fine, but I don't think Trevor May's putting you over the top.
Oh no, I'm not going to argue that either.
Trevor Rosenthal's still out there. There's a bunch of relievers still out there. And if I'm a
Mhm.
Mets fan, I'm saying, okay, we lost out on Bauer. That sucks. But that means that there's $40 million that you were spending, that you were willing to spend.
Well,
and there's
you
still
don't
a
know
lot of
that
free
either.
agents. How do I not?
Do we know what the Mets offered Bauer?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Oh, we
around the
do?
same.
Yeah, it was around the same. He just
I didn't.
essentially chose the Dodgers over
Wow.
the Mets.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
there's 35 to 40 millions out there that Steve Cohen was willing to spend on one guy. Why can't you allocate that to get 2 or 3 relievers, get Bradley Jr. out in there? I don't know why it was Bauer or a bust for the Mets.
Yeah, I don't know. It just they messed up big time this offseason. Glad I'm not a Mets fan because that has to suck. Thinking that you're going to go out there and you're going to get everybody, that's available and you got nothing. Big fail.
Let's move on to the negotiations between the MLB and MLBPA for this upcoming season. So they announced that there will be no universal DH, but the 7 innings and the runner on second, the 7 innings in doubleheaders, and then the runner on second to start extra innings will be implemented. There will be no expanded playoffs. And there is potential, depending on how things go with vaccinations and where we are as a country with the virus, that the playoffs might be neutral site again. I think that'll be determined months from now when we'll see what happens with that. I don't like this at all. I didn't like it last year, but I understood it. But I think this year with 162, with, us getting, all these vaccinations over the next couple months, I don't see the need to have double header 7 innings. I don't see the need to have a runner on second with extra innings. I think these are gimmicky kind of nonsense things that they threw together to shorten the games. The DH pisses me off the most because it's just time. It's just time to do it. I think all 3 of these implementations are just not good for the game. And it just boggles my mind. And we go over this it goes over this every single week. Let me just finish. We go over this every single week that whatever the right thing seems to be, meaning baseball, seem to do the opposite. You can ask me the question now.
Thank you.
Permission granted.
Is these rule changes not good for the sport or not good for you?
I don't think they're good for the sport.
Why?
Because I don't think that.
So you're telling me that people really want to sit and watch 18 innings of baseball in the middle of July?
Once in a blue moon, I think it's not a problem to the point where you have to compromise the integrity of the game.
There's still going to be cancellations. I mean, we're not COVID free. There's still going to be games canceled. You see in the NBA right now, games are getting canceled. NHL, there's a game or 2 canceled literally every single night. So games are still going to get canceled. You're going to have to make them up. I understand it for this year. And I understand it going forward because who wants to sit and watch 18 innings of baseball other than the 4 of us? Again, I get it once in a while, but the double headers are going to be – there's going to be a lot of double headers this year because there's going to be cancellations. And, you want to save the best baseball for October, that would be saving the arms. And you're going to destroy baseball's best pitchers with 18 innings.
But isn't there better ways to handle that with arms? Well, how about expanding rosters on doubleheaders to maybe like 30 getting arms up from the minor leagues? Do you have to, I guess, chop down innings from a baseball game? Because what if a team, and we talked about this last year when they implemented this too, what if a team misses a playoff by one game because they lost in a fluky 7-inning game? They didn't have the 8th and 9th inning to catch up. I feel
That's
like
a
every game needs to be uniform, and other sports don't do this. Other sports don't chop off time on the clock because, there's a back-to-back. You know what I'm saying?
I get it. But this is the only sport that's not timed.
Yeah.
So listen, you want to talk about maybe improving viewership. I understand what you're saying, and I don't disagree. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that we complain every single week that viewership is down, that baseball isn't fun, and that the younger generation just doesn't like baseball. We live in a society where the longest video you could watch is 60 seconds on TikTok. Who's gonna sit? What kid wants to sit and watch 18 innings of baseball? 14 innings is still a lot, but it's better.
I don't even think that's the right way to approach this, and I don't think that's the way that the decision's being made. I don't think Rob Manfred's sitting down at a conference table with the rest of his team thinking, we got to find a way to get an elementary school kid to watch 2 baseball games in one day. I just feel like that's a complete non-factor. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you like the runner on second in extra innings?
No,
I don't mind it.
I don't like that.
I hate it.
I
mean, like
we've
Cash,
had an indie
Cash,
ball.
do you like the shootout in hockey?
Yes.
I hate the shootout. I do not.
I think it's exciting, but we've been doing it in indie ball for 2 years, so for me, I'm kind of used to it. And in indie ball, it's different. We're not hitting home runs every at bat, but so it brings an element of small ball to the game, which I personally like. I like small ball, but as we saw last year, it didn't really do that much small ball. I don't know, man.
Do it in the 12th inning. I don't get
that I can agree with.
I don't get starting it right away.
I'll bend on that.
Do it a couple innings in. Once nothing's happened, then put the guy out there. But the 7th innings, it's just player safety at this. And I understand what Cash games are there's probably gonna be a lot of doubleheaders this year, so it makes sense to do it that way. I don't like it. I don't like the runner on second, and I got on board with the DH. You know what? I don't want to watch Aaron Nola swing the bat when there's runners on base. There's only a few select pitchers that actually want to be up there swinging the bat, and you're saying 2?
2.
Was it Bumgarner and what?
DeGrom,
Greinke.
Greinke. So there's a couple guys.
And there's so much. They're so expensive now. Imagine Bauer has to miss a month and a half because he, twisted his ankle rounding second.
Yeah, but Tanaka got hurt once, right? Running the bases.
Ming Wong ruined his career.
I love that play from Tanaka, by the way.
When Charlie
he was being aggressive.
Yeah, and when Charlie Morton was on the Phillies for his 1 year, he pitched in 3 games. In the 3rd game, he blew out his hamstring running to first base. Pitchers aren't used to that. That's not what they're training their bodies to do. It's pointless. To go back to the Mets are not going to have to play Dom Smith in left field. Their defense is going to be horrific this year because they're going to be playing guys out of position because there's no DH.
If there was a DH, you can move Smith to first and have Alonso DH.
Yeah,
because Alonso can't play first.
Then you put Nimmo in left field.
He can't play first well.
And you put Nimmo in left, and then you go get JBJ to play center field. That one really surprised me.
And Ozuna's going to have to play the field now in Atlanta.
And he's not a slouch defensively. I believe he's won a Gold Glove, but at this point,
he has an unbelievable arm.
He's not the same defender. We saw the play a couple years ago when he climbed on the fence in St. Louis and then fell flat on his face because he completely misjudged the ball. But yeah, it took away jobs, which is that I didn't get that on the sense of the MLBPA is that they eliminated 15 jobs for guys.
They don't want to agree on neither side want to agree on anything before they need to, which is
that's the issue is that the CBA is up next year. No one wants to give in at this point and lose their bargaining power for next year. So it is what it is at this point. And, we should just be happy that baseball's starting on time because of this.
Yeah. I don't think anyone that was a baseball fan wanted this month off or a month delay, I think that would have been, bad because, all these players already started working out months ago with the anticipation of going on time. And if you stunt that, then you're going to get a lot of injuries and a lot of people coming into the second quote unquote camp out of shape like we saw last year.
Adam Duvall agreed to a 1-year deal with the Marlins.
Good for them.
Sorry, I just saw that alert. I don't know if that's breaking news or not. He had 16 home runs last year.
What do the Marlins need to do to prove that last year wasn't a fluke? Is there anything they can do? Do they have the talent over 162?
I say yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, I don't know either.
Yes,
I don't
but
know if
not
they
a
have-
confident yeah.
I don't know if they have the depth.
I don't know if they'll make the playoffs because it's not expanded, but
I
can
don't
they
think
go?
will.
Can they go 83? Can they win over? Can they go over 500?
I was going to say, I think if they win 80 games, I feel like that's very good for them because the division's somewhat out of reach. Like even the Mets make the Marlins look like a bad baseball team. And there's just no
No, the Marlins play the
problem.
Mets very well though.
They do.
Always have.
The Marlins play in division pretty well to begin with, like in general. But
Yeah, Scott hates playing the Marlins.
Hate it. Hate it so much. Yeah, they play tough against their division rivals. Do you think there's a chance that all 5 teams finish at 500 or better?
yeah,
I think it comes down to the Marlins because I think they all will. I think 4 of the 5 definitely will.
Which would be
is
pretty
it
cool.
possible though? Is it
Yeah,
really
'cause-
possible?
I think
Just-
we've seen it.
Yeah, if you go outside, you take care of business outside of the division, and you kind of beat.
You go 500 in your division. You go over 500 out of your division. Then you got it.
It's a good point.
It's possible. I think it's very
But
possible.
there's always that one team that gets beaten up by the division, and normally it's the Marlins.
yeah, just because they just don't have the depth.
Well, you
They're-
just
they're
said
young.
that they play the Mets well and they play the Phillies well.
But the Braves probably
They play them well, but they still lose more than they win.
Oh,
For
they
sure.
beat the Phillies a lot.
Yes, they do. And they've beaten them very badly
I'm gonna look
at
up what
very
the
very
Marlins-
bad times. I think the Marlins have ended the Phillies season the last 2 years,
Yikes.
late in September.
I'm gonna figure out what the Marlins.
It's not what you
record was
want.
in division.
No,
Pacoda says that they're going to be 68 and 94.
I don't think that's right. I
That's
think
bad. Yeah.
that's far because it's like only like 8 games better than the Orioles, right?
Like 1.8 wins better.
Okay, yeah, they're more than 2 wins better than the Orioles.
I'd say, yeah, between like 5 and 10 wins better than the Orioles. If
Are the
not
Orioles
more.
going to win 10 games this year?
Ooh, that
Dude,
was fun.
during the last season,
In the moment,
I, said,
I thought it was a good bet.
I know I picked them under 20.
No, I
and a
wasn't
half.
making fun of you at all. I really wasn't.
No, I'm still pissed now because I mean I never placed the bet. I just said it on the podcast. But they had like, what were they, like 12 and 5 at one point, or like
Yeah, they
14
started out well.
and 6? Yeah, they had like 50 games to go and only needed like 7.
They were like in the last couple weeks of the year, they were like battling with the Yankees for like the 8th seed. I remember, and I was like, I was
they-
not happy about that at all.
They hung around last year.
So
And that was the the product of the shortened season was those
Mhm.
bad teams could linger. They didn't have to worry about depth for a full
are you
year.
surprised that they're not expanding the playoffs? You're surprised that they're not keeping the 1 to 8 seed, and they're just
Yeah,
making it what it was?
I think that's another shocker as well.
I'm very happy with it.
Yeah, I and we talked about it last week because it does make the spots more valuable. But we talked about it with it. It kind of knocks teams out a little bit earlier. But I'm kind of disappointed. I kind of wanted the extra cushion just in case, but I'm fine either way. I gotta imagine it's on the table to come back next year though.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that we might see differently next year. I think DH is definitely one of them.
That's one thing that I'm wondering is, and that's my main gripe with this entire situation. And I know we're in a pandemic right now, but still, why are we changing the rules over and over again every year? Like, why has this been a thing where, like, last year it makes sense? This year, I don't understand. Like, we have
Really,
the
nothing much has really changed.
Well, 7
we're playing a
innings.
normal season, a regular season. As of right now, nothing adverse has happened to the 2021 MLB season to warrant taking all of these measures prior to the season. Like, in a normal year, do the players and the owners get together and agree on the rules, or is it
No.
just assumed? Like,
It's assumed in the
why are we
CBA.
doing this?
I think it's for the coronavirus.
But
Tyler,
That's what they're gonna hide
they're,
behind.
They're
I know,
gonna
I
be
know.
there's gonna be cancellations, without a doubt.
of course, but why do we now need, like, is this going to be a thing going forward where now the players and the
No.
owners are going to fight over the rule set and whether there's going to be a DH or not?
I would
Like, the
assume
7-inning
not.
game's fine, I get that, but like the DH, the playoffs, like, why are we just teetering? The time to debate this is during the CBA, is it not?
Yeah.
Like, why is this happening right now? It's just
Well, I think that's the
frustrating.
argument. I think that's the argument. Like everything went back to the way it was, except for the 7-inning games and the extra innings, because that is what's going to be needed this year. But I think that at the end of the day, everything that was changed last year due to COVID is back to the way it was prior. So I think that they were meeting to see if it should happen, and it did. I don't know if I just
That's a
made
good
sense
point.
there, but it made sense in my head.
It's a good point. Yeah, I agree.
There were a couple other rules that were kind of implemented today, just in terms of spring training. So the teams in Florida are going to play in pods, they call it. So East Florida teams will play there, and then West Florida teams will play there, and there won't be any, cross-state matchups. There will be, I guess, depending on where we are in March, the managers can decide if it's going to be a 5-inning game, a 7-inning game, or a normal 9-inning game. I thought that was interesting because, a lot of those minor league kids rely on the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th inning. Spring training really isn't, a TV entertainment kind of thing. It is on TV for the diehards, but they're not like, I guess they're not, the main priority isn't ratings. I think it's more to get ready for the season, make sure everybody's healthy, make sure everyone's timing's down. Do you think it's a good idea? Do you think we're going to see a lot of these shortened games,
Yeah.
by design?
I do, because I think that they don't want everyone in one place at one time for that long. I think that they're going to have them play their game and then go back to their hotel or wherever they're staying. I know somebody in Major League Baseball right now who is going into their first season with an organization, and he had told me that they are not mixing with the 40-man. The 40-man is going to be their own place, their own bubble, if you will. And, the new guys aren't going to meet anyone on the 40-man unless they're there for extended spring training or anything. But there's not going to be a lot of mingling going on.
One question I have, I don't know if any of you guys have the answer. What's the point in playing a 5-inning game with travel and all that type of stuff? Like 7 innings, I understand. I know it's only a 2-inning difference both ways between 5 and 7 and 7 and 9.
Well, that's why they're not doing the travel. Like all these teams in the East Side are all like within a 30-minute drive.
But even so, my point is, like, what's the difference between playing a safe, controlled 9-inning inter squad versus a 5-inning versus another team? Like, I feel like there's no point in getting together, putting on an entire show and a game and a production basically for 5 innings. Like, that's an hour and a half of baseball. Like,
so
Yeah.
The other thing is, and
don't know.
I'll say it from the stadium side of things, is that if there's going to be fans in the stands, which I would have to imagine there will be in Florida, especially, you're paying people to work those games for that extra hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever it is. And stadiums that have sat vacant for a year, ownership might not have the money to do so.
Well, even fans buying tickets, same thing. Like, you don't know if you're going to pay a ticket for spring training is cheap regardless, but like, you don't know if you're paying $20 for a 9-inning game or a 5-inning game. And that might be the difference for some people.
I think it's ahead of time. It's figured out.
Yeah, but they can decide
the
when they
managers can decide.
change
how
lineup
far,
cards.
Yeah, like how far in advance does that decision have to be made?
Well, that depends. I guess that's a great question, and I don't know when that decision is. But
like that would suck if I bought a ticket to a game, even if it's just like $10 for a ticket to spring training, and then they hand out exchange lineup cards, and then there's an announcement.
All right, so I have a question for you. It's a little bit of a different scenario, but you go to a Yankee game, right? You spend $100 on a bleacher seat.
Yeah.
They play 5 innings, starts downpouring, Yankees win 1-0.
Yeah, but I get a weather forecast before the game. Like I know what I'm signing up for. Am I not? Like
yeah.
that idea is in my head that it might get rained out.
Sure, but it's still a possibility that you're paying for a 9-inning game, right? And you're going and you're only getting 5 innings.
Yeah,
I think it's just more, you have a good point. I think it's just more so the point of It's more just like the managers can cut it off. At
Yeah,
any
it's
moment.
it's the
just
fact
like,
that it's
yeah,
a
hey,
human,
we don't want to play today.
it's a human decision that's being made.
I would
to cut
have
the game off.
I would have to imagine that when you buy the ticket, you know how many innings you're getting.
I agree.
I would hope so. I would hope that's the case.
We're
But
dealing with Rob Manfred here.
yeah,
Well, at that point, you're dealing with the stadium operations.
This is true.
and also it wouldn't work for. I was listening to Michael Kay, and he was talking about it like, these TV, and we don't really, I don't know if any of us care really about this, but like TV networks sell commercials. So if a game gets cut off at the 5th inning, they sold airspace for the 7th, 8th, 9th inning commercials. Now it doesn't affect us, but that's another thing to, I guess,
Yeah,
think about.
it does take that into account. Yeah, or they have to when they're doing that. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I like
Just
watching
wild.
spring
Really?
training baseball. I'm excited to have it on in the background while I'm.
I do
doing
like
work.
myself some spring training baseball. I was worried because the Yankees didn't announce any TV things, and then I saw last minute that they did. So their first game's on the 27th. I'm sure everything is going to get changed because they had a normal schedule out for the last couple months, and I think that they're going to just have to revamp it with all the East Coast Florida teams.
I feel like they do that for the most part, though, right?
Well, sometimes they ship off to Port St. Lucie or wherever Houston plays, or Toronto on the east side of Florida. I don't know. It is what it is.
I want to go to Tampa for a Yankee spring training game this year.
It's fun. Have you been?
I have not.
I have. I went to the exhibition Florida State, and Jameis Winston played baseball.
Nice.
It was a good time.
Did
Is
he
there spring
pitch or
training
play
in
right
Vegas?
field?
He played at right field, and he had an at bat and everything.
Nice. That's
Have
cool.
they ever had spring training in Vegas?
I don't think
Have
so.
the Yankees?
Have the MLB? It's only Arizona and Florida, right?
I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah, I think the Mets have a they have a AAA team in Vegas, or they used to.
Used to. They used to be Las Vegas.
Which was
the
always funny
Syracuse
because
Mets
they
now.
couldn't bring up anyone from AAA because it was across the country. Because it was cheaper to be in Vegas than anywhere else.
I'm going to Vegas in 3 weeks for a baseball
Really?
tournament. So maybe
That's
I'll shoot
fun.
down to Arizona.
You can do that.
I
Cat
could.
Showers, the miners looking.
We're looking very good.
Very good.
And,
It was very vague.
We are some big signings in the minor league world. And our manager, Bobby Jones, is very excited for this season. So I think it's going to be a great season. It's going to be a
Is there a schedule yet?
no.
That's the key.
I'm hoping for next week.
That's very important.
I'm very bored, so I'm hoping for next week. But it's gonna be great. It's gonna 16 teams in the Frontier League this year, so that's great. It's the biggest independent league in America, which is awesome, and it's gonna be a great season.
Do we got anything else, guys?
I don't think so. I think
Good.
it was
Short and sweet.
It was a light week this week. It wasn't
Yeah.
outside of Bauer. There wasn't much.
Next week we'll be right in the midst of pitchers and catchers reporting, so I'm sure we'll get something.
We're heating up. We like this.
We're heating
This is
up.
Big news.
We can do divisional previews soon. We can bring back the over/under game. There's a lot on the table for these upcoming weeks.
And if you're a betting man, I am starting on an MLB model, seeing if I
Ooh.
can get this done in 2 months, or at least close to working. The college basketball model hasn't been perfect, but it's still beating Vegas. So I don't know.
That's exciting.
It is exciting. We could
Very
even use it
exciting.
for the show, possibly for little games. Who knows?
Did you guys have a good Super Bowl though with the betting?
No,
I did.
No.
We went over this
No.
before you joined. Before
What happened?
well, if we didn't have a good betting Super Bowl, who do you think we bet on?
The Chiefs?
Oh, you're a genius.
Yes.
There was
It just-
two
it
teams
just
playing.
comes to me. It just comes to me. I thought you did like prop bets and stuff. You can still like lose with the Chiefs and win money with other
Oh,
things.
I did not do a prop bet. I know somebody who lost $70 on the coin toss, though.
Ooh,
I don't blame him though, because tails never fails until it fails. So
I always say heads. Every single time there's a coin being flipped, I'll always say heads.
Good to
I'll
know.
never go tails. Ever.
That's good to know.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. All right. Before we wrap it up, do we have anything else that we didn't cover?
nope.
All right, great. For this edition of Base Hit Ball 4, my name is Glenn Denegris. For Scott Roswald, Alex Cashman, Tyler Blumenstick. We'll see you next week.